Ing. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining, those in the room as well as those attending remotely. Eric is occupied otherwise, so I'm going to do my best to run the session both in the room as well as via Zoom. You're more than welcome to, at any point, go ahead and put a question into the chat if you're attending remotely. And in the room, obviously raise your hand, shout out any questions that you may have. For the next hour, we're going to be talking about Zoom and Google Hangouts and targeting specifically synchronous instructional strategies. Synchronous meaning that you and the students are learning at the same time, so in real time. There are a couple of things, reoccurring questions that keep coming up that I want to just announce openly right off the bat. First, I'm going to make sure that I'm recording. Okay, I am recording. But a few things that I want to announce right off the bat in terms of synchronous instruction. The first, there continues to be conversations about whether or not Zoom has lifted the 40-minute time limit on basic accounts. As of right now in Damon, the answer is no. There is still a 40-minute time limit on Zoom basic accounts in meetings of 3 or more people. With that said, it's our recommendation that if you are leading an asynchronous session of for your class, the recommendation would be to use Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts Meet have increased their capacity. They can host 250 students simultaneously. They've also added the ability to record. So if you do need to record that synchronous session, you can do so in Hangouts. Now, I will say that I have worked with faculty that have taught synchronously through Zoom, even with the 40-minute time limit. Basically, what they've done is they set up 2 or 3 sessions in advance, and they structured their class, their instruction, around basically building in either breaks or student activities at those 30, 35, 40-minute marks. So that's an option. It's not necessarily the cleanest or the easiest in terms of administration, but that's what this particular faculty elected to do. So what they did was they set out, they had one class in 3 sections, like one class in 3 different Zoom sessions. But what they did was they taught, you know, they gave their 20 minutes of instructions. The students completed an activity, a task. They break for 5-10 minutes, and then they join the second Zoom session. So
1 hour class, for example, you could teach 30 minutes and then 5 minutes break and then come back and rotate it. So there's no.
that's exactly it. Yes, the question is, so if it's a 1 hour class, you can teach for 30 minutes, take a 5-minute break, end the Zoom, restart the Zoom, and they join again. And yes, you could do that if you choose Zoom. Yes. If it's in Zoom, the 40-minute time limit is not, it doesn't take effect until it's a group meeting, so 3 or more. So if you start your own Zoom and you're recording or you're doing something, the 40-minute time limit does not take effect, even if it's one-on-one. So if you're using it for open office hours or what I call like a remote guest speaker, if you're interviewing a guest speaker or something like that to show your class later, if it's one-on-one, the 40-minute time limit does not apply. It's until 3 people enter the room, and that's when that 40-minute time limit would take effect. So that's the first of the 2 announcements, one being Zoom has not lifted as of today, as of 1:05 on March 17th, they have not lifted the 40-minute time limit. So that being, you can either structure your class to do multiple sessions, or you can use Google Hangouts, which is not subject to the time limit. The other announcement, because this has been coming up more and more over the last couple of days too, if you are planning on teaching synchronously, meaning that you are scheduling a meeting for you and your students to be in a Zoom or Hangout together, please do so during the time that your class is scheduled to meet. This question has come up a few times, but that's the only time that we as faculty can really ensure that our students are available, is the time that we are scheduled, the day and time we are scheduled to meet with them. Because if we met outside of those times, students are enrolled in more than one course, they could be required by multiple different faculties to meet at the same time. To avoid all of that, if you schedule your synchronous meetings during your scheduled class days and hours, the students are, you know, guaranteed to be free at that time. All right, those 2 announcements. Diving in, section, we're going to talk about accessing Zoom and Hangouts, the quickest and what I think are the easiest ways to schedule the Zoom sessions, and then different ways we can distribute the links to our students so that they can access them, as well as some strategies once we're in Zoom and Hangouts. However, it's going to be somewhat difficult to demonstrate using Zoom via Zoom. The people in the room can, as I'm sharing my screen, can see the admin controls when I'm using them. However, those that are attending via Zoom, you do not see everything that's on my screen right now. If I step to the side and you see the actual screen that I'm presenting on, you'll see that there's a lot more going on the screen than there is actually what Zoom participants are seeing. But everyone most likely has accessed their Zoom account, but if you have not, from my daemon, if you type in Zoom, Zoom video conferencing comes up. I click the star to add it to my favorites. But the URL to access is also relatively easy. It's daemon www.zoom.us. And that takes you to the landing page where you can simply click sign in. And you're into Zoom. You can see all of my meetings that I have scheduled. I have a number of reoccurring meetings, but also have some scheduled specifically for today. Now I can instantly host a meeting from this platform. I can join someone else's meeting where it asks me for either a link or an ID, or I can schedule a future meeting. Do we know if Hangouts recordings work reliably? The Hangout recordings that I have tested so far have been very reliable, Torsten. When you record a Hangout, it automatically saves it to your Google Drive. It creates a folder called Meet Recordings, and it stores them as, this was one that we tested earlier today, but it stores them as recordings. You can see in the top left-hand corner. So, I mean, in terms of reliability, it's worked 100% of the time that I tried it. I've tried it twice. They automate, yes, if you record in Hangouts, it creates a folder in your drive called Meet Recordings and automatically saves it in there. So it's a nice feature. Something we'll be going over in the second hour in the asynchronous portion. The thing that I recommend to install, now in order to join or host a Zoom meeting, you need the Zoom client. Obviously, everyone attending via Zoom already has that downloaded. However, another recommendation that I make is to add the Zoom extension for Chrome. And the extension, like any extension, would be found up here in the top right-hand corner. But if we get the Chrome extension, it's a very quick install. Zoom scheduler, click Add to Chrome, and add extension. It's going to do a very quick download, and then the extension is installed. Because I'm already logged into Zoom, it recognizes me and asks me if I want to sync. If you are not already logged into Zoom in your browser, it will just ask you if you want to log in, and you can log in through your daemon credentials. The reason that I like this so much is because right from any page that I'm in Chrome, I can now schedule a meeting or start an impromptu meeting. Start a meeting or schedule a future meeting. But the really nice part about this comes with scheduling a meeting. And that I'm going to demonstrate. Not sure why my daemon isn't loading for me now. If I go to my Google, I'll go ahead and hide. So here's my Google Calendar. If I wanted to schedule a meeting, say I wanted to schedule a meeting for every time my class is going to meet. So I meet every Tuesday from 2:30 to 3:30 with my class. And that's actually true. I create a calendar appointment, and I can call it under more options. Because I've installed this Zoom Chrome browser, notice this big blue Zoom blue button in the middle of my calendar appointment. This is what makes it so helpful, and this is what I've used to invite all of you to these Zoom sessions. As I create the calendar appointment and I click make it a Zoom meeting. it immediately brings up my scheduling options. One thing I like to point out about Zoom is that everyone with a Zoom account has a personal meeting room. That personal meeting room is what they call a permalink. That link is never going to change. So your meeting ID, my personal meeting ID that ends in 6606 there on the screen, I can choose to hold meetings in that room, or I can have Zoom randomly generate a unique meeting ID. Those are usually for things like this that if I'm sending out the link, I want certain people to have access to it, but my personal meeting ID, that's something I might post in Blackboard. That's something I might say, my office hours, I'm always available at this same link. Even if you're teaching, and you might be teaching 3-4 different classes, but you might tell all of your students to go to that same link because that's where you're going to be teaching from. So that room, that Zoom room, can be accessed from that same permalink over and over and over again. You can require a password for your meeting if you choose. This video, host and participant on off, this is upon entry into the room. Once participants are in the room, they have the option to toggle it on or off, but you can control upon entry, do you want your video on or off? And upon entry, do you want the participant's video on or off? I leave it off because usually it's kind of daunting. You open the window and bam, you're looking at yourself in the face. You don't know how your webcam is adjusted, but you can always toggle that if you choose. Audio, same thing. You can choose telephone, computer audio, or both. And again, this is just what you're giving your students as an option. This is important to realize because if a student tells you, I don't have a mic, or I don't have a cam or a mic, that doesn't mean they can't participate, because they can join Zoom or Hangouts on their computer and they can call into the meeting on their phone to get the audio. So even if a student doesn't have a webcam or mic, they can still participate in a synchronous session. The other options require registration prior to the meeting. I don't recommend that. Enable join before host. That means what'll happen is if that's deselected, so any users who clicked the link before I did, they were put into a waiting area that said, and you may have seen this before, the meeting you're attempting to join has not started yet. Once the host arrives, you'll enter the meeting room. So if you click enable join before host, they won't be put in that staging area. They'll just enter your room and you know, they can converse and chat with each other before the host arrives. Mute participants on entry. That's something I might recommend if you're expecting large classes, because a lot of times there's background noise, there's dogs barking, there's, you know, if they're in a noise sensitive environment or something like that. By muting them upon entry, they're not going to interrupt your lecture, especially if they come in late. But you always have the option, once again, to toggle that mute on or off once you're in. Enable the waiting room. Torsten, excellent question. He asked about emoticons, and actually, this Zoom has not been updated, but if you run an update on your Zoom, emoticons are available for thumbs up, thumbs down, and things like that, as well as like changing the skin tone. But if you also open up your participants panel, which is different than the chats, you can see some of these other options. Let me see where the emojis are. I know they're up here. If I stop sharing for 1 second. Yes, you're right, Torsten. This computer that I'm working on, Zoom hasn't been updated, but that is a recent update for Zoom where that you can actually they have emoticons and emojis for participants to share how they're feeling about a lesson. So you can get a lot of good nonverbal feedback. Again, you could do that from the participant panel. I see Karen gave me a green check mark already, but you can use the nonverbal feedback. You can ask your students, you know, is that clear? Can we move on? They can give you a green check mark or a no. They can ask you to go faster or slower. And then there's thumbs up, thumbs down, clapping, need a break, and I'm away from my computer right now. Enable the waiting room. The waiting room acts similar to that staging area if somebody joins before the host, but what it actually does is if somebody joined right now when I had the waiting room enabled, it would send a notification that this person, this username has entered the waiting room, and you as the instructor actually have to allow them into the room. That's not a bad idea if you're using the same link, but you have like back-to-back sessions, because if someone wants to show up 5 minutes early, but your other session hasn't ended yet or something like that, you might want to enable the waiting room so they can sit off in staging, your other class can leave, kind of like your students waiting out in the hall for the class to begin. That's a similar idea. If you want to record the meeting automatically, basic users do not get the option of local versus cloud. Can you clarify, are we creating meetings from a global Damon Zoom account? Everyone at Damon, so if you have a damon.edu email address, you have access to Zoom. If you go to damon.zoom.us and click sign in, it'll take your credentials from My Damon and you will have access to your Damon Zoom account. When I hear personal, it is a personal account through the Damon domain, but when I hear personal Zoom accounts, I'm thinking someone signing up with one through like a Gmail account. So it's not a global Damon account. Each individual Damon user has access to a Damon account. Again, recording, you can choose to record automatically. I do that because far too often I forget to click record when I go to start the meeting. So I choose to record automatically. If you're a basic user, you won't be given the choice of on the local computer or in the cloud. It will automatically record to your device. And I'm going to show in a second what it'll look like after that's done. But it creates a folder in your documents called Zoom recording. Actually, I think it's just called Zoom. And then once the meeting ends, it converts the video and saves it in that location. And then this includes the join URL in the location field. When I click continue, you're going to see what that means. So in the location of the meeting, it's automatically going to dump that URL and all of the information. So I'm going to take a step back and do that quicker to show exactly how quick it can be to create a meeting. So here we go. I teach every Tuesday from 2:30 to 3:30. I missed a little bit there, but that's okay because I can. I teach every Tuesday from 2:30 to 3:30. I'm going to hit more options. I'm going to say I teach weekly on Tuesday. So it's going to put something on my calendar for every Tuesday. I can take it a step further and tell it to end on May 5th. I'm guessing approximately that's probably the end of the semester finals week. I click make it a Zoom meeting. I set my preferences appropriately and I click continue. It puts the full description down here in the meeting description and it puts the link in the location. I'm done. I can add my students and send them meeting invites if I choose. But if I save this, I can also just copy this link location and share that in Blackboard via email. So the creation of a meeting can be very swift using the calendar feature, but it requires that Chrome add-on. It can still be done, however, from the Zoom platform. So here's daemon.zoom.us. Again, I click sign in and it takes my credentials from my daemon. And I click schedule meeting. And it's all fields, topic, time, duration. And you'll see it gets into the same. Do I want to use a automatic generated ID or my personal ID? If I require a password, what is that password going to be? And so on. So I can still do it through the platform itself and then export it as a calendar or even copy the invitation and share in my Blackboard. I find the most effective and the most efficient is to add that Chrome browser add-on and do it right through Calendar. Now, if you're not doing Zoom and you want to do Hangouts, it's the exact same process. Even if you don't have the Chrome add-on for Zoom, this is available for Hangouts. I come down to where it says add conferencing, and one of my choices is Hangouts. If you don't have the Zoom add-on, you're only going to have one choice, and that's Hangouts. So I add it, and it gives me my link. And again, when I click save, I can copy this link and share it with Blackboard through email. So the creation of the meetings can be relatively quick. If you're using the calendar appointment, it's also the quickest way to make it recurring. So I say weekly on Tuesday. This will add it to every single Tuesday from now until the end of time. If I say custom, I can give it an end date. If you teach Tuesday and Thursday, you see here, repeat every Tuesday and Thursday and end on May 7th. So now it's put it on every Tuesday and Thursday. Yep, see, I wasn't lying. I do teach that day. And again, that link will remain the same for all of those sessions. So if you put that session in your Blackboard course, they can return to that same link over and over again. So that's scheduling and sharing a meeting. Now I'm going to dive into some of the functionality. I'll start with Hangouts. Since I have a meeting link right here, I can jump in. So this is going to be kind of unique because we're going to be looking at a Hangouts meeting through the Zoom lens. But when you start a Hangouts meeting, you're brought to this staging area where you can test your microphone and your webcam. As you see, I can turn it off. I can turn it on. If you have multiple webcams, you can also toggle between them. I do have multiple webcams right now, but because it's in use, this one's in use for Zoom and this one's in use for Hangouts, it's not showing up as multiple webcams. But up here, it would ask you which one you want to use if you do have two. So I'm going to go ahead and join now. The one thing I really want to show, so Google Hangouts is very similar to Zoom in the sense that I can view all the participants. I can invite people right from the dashboard, like right from the meeting. I can invite people. He's in another meeting right now, so he's probably not going to join, but he'll get an invite. And then there's also the chat panel. A little bit less functionality in terms of Hangouts. They can't target who they're messaging. It's a message to everyone always. In Zoom, you can send private messages or target specific groups and message that way. One of the really nice features, though, of Hangouts, if I can get my Hangouts, instead of called screen share, it's called present now, but very similar functionality. The very cool one that I was talking about is turn on captions. It does speech to text in real time to provide synchronized closed captioning for the meeting. And as you can see, as I'm speaking, the accuracy of it is pretty fantastic. So if accessibility is an issue, or if students don't have audio speakers, they can't dial in for any reason, they can still access the meeting on their device, turn on closed captioning, and follow along to what is being said. If there's another person in here, do you see where it says you and has my little picture next to the transcript? If someone else started speaking, it would say that person's name and have their icon, and then that person's name and their icon. So it not only gives you the synchronous closed captioning, it provides who is speaking and when as well. So this is a really cool feature. I don't know how that came across on Zoom. Hopefully you're able to see on my screen what's experiencing. Actually, no, I'm sharing the whole window, so you see it just fine. Never mind. I'm forgetting I'm in Hangouts right now and Zoom. How accurate it is? It's amazing, isn't it? Oh, it deleted an Yes, it. That's a good question. The question is, does the caption show for everyone or just the person? And it's just each person. So I turn closed captioning on, that's why I'm seeing it. If there was another user in the room that didn't toggle it on, they would not be seeing it. It's still captioning, even with it turned off, if there were another user doing it. So your words can be, even if you don't have captioning on, someone else in the room might have captioning on. Not that I've seen yet. The question was, can the captions be synced into a document, like a transcript file? That's what I was actually testing earlier this week. Because it does speech to text in real time, if I save the recording to Drive, is it closed captioned when it's saved? The answer is no. A disappointing no, I know. At least it wasn't the last time I checked. I can check again to see if it took longer to sync. It does save a chat transcript, but the chat transcript is not the closed captioning we're looking for. Yeah, like when I click closed caption,
I click so fast. I think
it doesn't turn on or off.
And maybe
that was just me and Eric playing around, testing what the functionality was, because it was about a week ago we were given this access, so we got in there and learned quickly as to what we were capable of doing and what we were not. You can add attachments in Hangouts and distribute files. And under the settings over here, again, you can record the meeting. You can choose a different layout if you don't want the default layout. It's not really changing much because there's nobody else in the meeting. Here's where you can change your audio and your video if you wish. If you have different microphones, for example, I have a couple different, I have a USB mic right now. I also have a webcam mic, so that probably changed the audio a little bit, although it's being used by Zoom, so it's probably not changing much. Do you present those features to the students first when you invite them? Are you talking, Karen, are you talking about the closed captioning? Do you present those features? Those attending remotely, you can like just talk too. You don't always have to type. I'll wait. But again, to share my screen, I click present now. I can share an individual window or I can share the entire screen. Here's the window options. Or I can share the entire screen. Now I'm sharing a screen within a shared screen. I'm going to go ahead and hang up the Hangout and close the Hangout window. But that is Hangout in a nutshell. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and position my cam to capture the screen so that it's seen a little better of what I'm doing in the session. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. When I'm in Zoom, a couple of nice features, a couple of nice features from the Zoom controls, the more robust features that Zoom has over Hangouts. First is polling. You can add that polling question right in Zoom, and then when I'll demonstrate that very briefly. But it's a multiple choice question that you can create, and then you can answer as many as you'd like, or you can offer as many as you'd like, but you can share those results in real time with the participants. I don't have a demonstration in the interest of time today, but you can deploy a poll, accept responses from the users, and then choose to display them or not, so you can discuss those options. You can discuss those results. So the polling is a nice feature. Another nice feature that I really enjoy about Zoom is the purpose of breakout rooms. So if you have a class of 20, 30, 40 students and you want to have a small group discussion, you know, send them off on their own for 5 minutes, have a discussion, and then come back. Zoom offers breakout rooms right within the rooms. Now I'm going to demonstrate these breakout rooms in a minute, but I want to explain what's going to happen before, because once I send remote users into breakout rooms, they can no longer hear the audio from the main session. But what I'm going to do is when you click breakout rooms, it tells me there's 11 participants that aren't me in the session, and it asks me how many rooms. And as you see, as I count up the rooms, it automatically does the math for me, which is nice, that it's going to put 2 to 3 participants per room. Well, 2 isn't quite a group discussion, so I'll go down 1 so that I'll create 3 breakout rooms, and they'll each be assigned 3 or 4 people. I click create, and what it does is it automatically, and I'm trying, hopefully you can see this, but it automatically puts users in a room. And from here, if I choose, I can move someone to another room. So I can say, oh, this person can be moved to breakout room 3. Or beyond move, I can exchange them, and I can say swap Karen with Wen, and now it's those 2 individuals are swapped in one motion instead of having to swap them again. In my options, I can move all participants into the rooms automatically. If that's deselected, it prompts the users, your breakout session has started, click here to enter it. I've done that before, and it's taken users a really long time to click there and get into their breakout sessions. I recommend moving them over automatically. The next one is allow participants to return to the main session at any time. So if they're done having their conversation, can they end their own breakout session, or are you requiring them to be in it until you call them back? The breakout room closes automatically after. This is a really nice feature to kind of stay on task. If you say, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms for 3 minutes to discuss this, and then we're all going to come back, it'll set a timer for those 3 minutes. And then once it's done, it'll call them back. Notify me when the time is up. And then it'll also count down. The breakout will be closing in how many seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send everyone off into the breakout room. What you're not going to see when you're in the breakout room is my controls as the host, is that I'm going to see the activity in each breakout room. You are going, as the as the host can, let me pin this one. What's she doing? I, as the host, can join any breakout session at any point, or if a participant is in a breakout session, they can request the host or the instructor join their room. If anyone, once you're in your breakout room, could click the request host, so we can see what the prompt looks like. But I'm going to go ahead and click open rooms, and this is going to automatically see now. As the users start populating in the breakout rooms, they can't hear me anymore because they're in their own rooms. But I can jump in and join at any particular room I want. I can even move users while they're in their rooms. But hopefully somebody will, again, I can broadcast a message to all. And I can close rooms at any time, but I set them to a 1-minute time limit. So they should be coming back. You can see right up top, it's counting down. In about 10 seconds, all of their rooms are going to close and they're going to join me back in the main room. All right, so as people are coming back in, joining the main room, whoop, now I'm getting the, what effect is that? Oh, where am I? Visual and Performing Arts. When the camera just keeps going and going and going. That is the last thing that I'll show in Zoom. Zoom it has a closed captioning option, but it's not nearly on par with the Google Hangouts option in that down here at the bottom of the screen, it has a closed caption. And what you can do is you can assign someone in the room to transcribe what is being said. So it's not necessarily, fully ADA accessible or compliant. That's, we got about 15 minutes left. Are there any questions regarding hosting Zoomer, scheduling Zoomer Hangouts, hosting Zoomer Hangouts? I could ask it there, I can answer for you. That is, we don't copy the API token. That is if we subscribe to a voice to text closed captioning service, we can integrate it with our Zoom environment. At this time, I don't know the options pricing or availability of that.
And you would assign someone to type, so they would actually sit and just type?
Yes, I can assign a participant to type, and they would, as they're typing, for example, Torsten, I'm coming at you. So I can assign to type closed caption, and as the meeting's going on, Torsten is given a text field that he can type in what is being said. Yeah, I know. That's a big ask to ask from someone. Let's see. If I have a Zoom Pro account my own, which doesn't have a 40-minute time limit, can I use that account, or do I need to go through Damon? If you have a Zoom Pro account beyond the 40 minutes and you prefer to schedule through that, you're more than welcome to schedule through that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that would mean that it would be a David expense to be out of her pocket to do this through David.
I don't know how that works, because when we assign a pro account, we do a budget transfer from department to the IT line, because IT pays all the subscriptions, and then we charge the individual departments. So I don't know how that would work.
She'd have to like somehow make the department whole.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, should I further ask about that?
Yeah, I would ask.
It would be an out-of-pocket expense to her, and she just wants to do it.
Sure, and honestly, it's $90 annually too. So if it was prorated for even a portion of the year, I'm not even sure that $90 would be.
She didn't love it.
No, I mean, $90 annually is nothing for a pro subscription. Like we had 3 or 4 rogue ones. Like we had one Zoom account, we had one one or two go-to meetings, and then we had a Cisco WebEx account in like 3 or 4 different departments, and we were paying like quadruple what we paid to get the baseline 20 pro Zoom accounts, because $90 annually is not a lot compared to some of the other options out there. Like Skype for Business, it's like $1,200 a year. Oh, closed captioning is available. So it is turned on. Any other questions? I see can you use Dragon simultaneously with Zoom or Hangout? That's an excellent question. Do I know which departments have pro? Different individuals in different departments have pro. Departments as a whole don't have pro because Zoom, each one of us have our own accounts. So it's whether or not the individual has a pro account or not. Is there anything we need to know with regard to sharing documents, videos? If you're sharing a video, that is a great question. Thank you. If you're sharing a video, and notice that I did play a couple videos during our presentation here, but if you're sharing a video, when you're going to click share and you're choosing share my screen, down here in the corner, there's a radio button that says share computer sound. If you're going to be playing a video that everyone in the meeting is going to both see and hear, you're going to want to make sure that before you share, you select that share computer sound. Because if I were to hit play on a video with that deselected, you'd see the video updating in your Zoom, but you would not hear the audio. It would only be the audio through mic. And that's to protect against things like if you get Windows updates or your dial pad started ringing in the middle of a meeting, that sound normally doesn't transmit. But if you choose share computer sound, it will. Do you have any suggestions for using the Zoom whiteboard or how to, oh, that is a great question. Not only is there the whiteboard option, but even in Zoom before, without using the whiteboard, if I'm just sharing my screen, there's also at the top here, and I'm not sure if you can see it on, but if on your own controls, you should also have the annotate tool. So I can put a stamp, like this is where you're going to want to click. So you can annotate as you're screen sharing. If I'm in my PowerPoint, I might choose to create a circle around something as I'm talking about it. So there are annotation tools. There's a spotlight. So I can spotlight my mouse as I'm navigating now. And as I click, you can see when I click. So there are other tools that are available for annotating. The whiteboard itself is available. Now this is something similar to, I mean, really a whiteboard anywhere. And you can use the annotation tools, but if you give free rein to chaos break out pretty quickly. But again, the underneath annotate, and I have those same. So you can do different things in here, and students can do that too. The other thing that you can do is that you can allow the breakout sessions to use whiteboards. And then I believe you can collect those whiteboards. But that would be something before I confirmed I'd have to test. Oh, and Torsten did a great job of demonstrating the virtual backgrounds that we can use. Hold on, I got to pin this video. Underneath video, there's choose virtual backgrounds. And I don't have, it could do videos or images. I didn't do the update, so mine, I can turn it on right now. So it's going to mess up because there's a TV behind it. But if I did a blank white wall, I do not have a green screen. Let's see here. Okay. So if I go choose virtual. Okay. So what you do is you identify the color, and well, my gray shirt is pretty much the same as the dark background. So I disappear. Let me try that again. Let's take something more white. Nope, that's okay. Am I going to disappear? Yeah, I disappeared. Picked a bad shirt color to demonstrate that today. Nice. Yeah, but you can have fun with those. Not sure if you want to point that out to students or not, because it can get pretty chaotic pretty quickly. But it does give a little sense of security in terms of, like, when I'm working from home, that's when I usually put it up. On my computer, I have a Damon blue background with the Damon logo in the corner, and I use that in my home office because my home office, I also have young children, so there's a lot of like kids' toys and stuff like that in the background. So like, just for a sense of a little bit of privacy, I like to use the virtual background. Should have had green today. Yes, you can upload your own images as well. You can upload your own images or videos. So it can get pretty unique. That's a good term for that, unique. Any other questions? There's about 7 minutes left, but I'm going to transition. I'm going to leave this Zoom session, transition to the asynchronous portion, how these tools can be used to record videos. Any other questions about scheduling, sharing, or hosting a synchronous meeting? All right. Well, if not, I hope you all decide to join me for the 1 o'clock or the 2 o'clock session. But I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting for now, and see you in a few minutes.